Well, it seems like not a lot has happened since the last Sunday No Huddle, but we're going to take some time to reflect and look ahead. Andy Olson joined by Robert Rosenthal from IlliniBoard.com. Now, Robert, how was your bye week? Taking some time to relax, recharge?
Yes, taking a set. The strange thing is only one Saturday football game for Illinois.
Yeah.
September. They had a Friday night game, Labor Day weekend. Then they have a Saturday game, then a bye week Thursday, and then an off Saturday. So I don't know what to do with my Saturdays in September if there's no football game. I don't know how that works.
Should get busier in October, I'd say. There's
Yes.
quite a few coming up. But this is one of Illinois' 2 bye weeks this season. After playing in week 0, it comes at a pretty good time right before a Thursday night game, which means you get somewhat balanced days off in between. You don't have that short week going into a Thursday. So we'll start with the news that has happened in the week since the most recent game. It did come out that Ezekiel Holmes, outside linebacker, lost for the season. He will not be playing any more games this year. It looks like it could be a bigger role for true freshman Gabe Agus to step into after a breakout game that he had against Virginia. 2 sacks in that one. And from what he's shown in the first 3 games, he could be one to really the only true freshman, I think, this year to take on a role like that in the starting lineup.
Definitely. And, it's an interesting contrast to, say, the 2017 season, which was Lovey's second year. Because Lovey brought in his first recruiting class, and 15 of those guys started at least one game. They just basically turned completely to the freshmen. So, this is kind of what we saw that year in 2017. I remember the Western Kentucky game that year. The 2 starting defensive ends were Bobby Roundtree and Isaiah Gay, 2 true freshmen. It was just commonplace that year that, if there was an opening true freshman here, like you said, Agus might be the only one who is, moving into a starting role, which is, maybe a little bit rare for a coach bringing in his second class. He likes to get to those guys as soon as he can. So I think Alec Bryant, if he's healthy, will also be a piece there. He's a third-year guy. Went 1 year at Virginia Tech and then redshirted here last year, and so I think they'll lean on him a little bit. And but yeah, it's interesting to take a guy who they discovered later in the class in Agus and say, hey, you're the guy, and let's go get more of those sacks.
You mentioned that 2017 season where all those true freshmen thrown onto the field. You know what it looks like when a guy is ready for that moment. And Bryant is going to have some snaps, but Agus is going to get a lot as well. Do you think, from what you've seen through the first 3 games, he gives off that vibe of being ready for that moment?
I think so. He has the body for it. Like that's the biggest thing, is you have to have the frame, the muscular structure to be able to take on a offensive tackle, to be able to hold the edge on a rushing play. I remember one of the first press conferences that Brett Bielema did this fall, or at fall camp in August, where he was talking about Agus and Henry Boyer go against each other in practice, and just made a side comment of, like, I think those guys are going to play a lot this year. And he talked about at the time, like, both of them are ready. Like, they're physically ready. Some guys just aren't there yet. So, yeah, I think he's ready. Now, there's a whole big difference between him getting 2 sacks, against Virginia, who's had a patchwork offensive line and has struggled to put something, again, today struggled on offense. But there's a big difference between that and, let's say, Michigan, when they go up to Michigan, or even Minnesota and Iowa. That's a whole different thing for a freshman to be ready for. So he's got a big task ahead.
All right, we're talking about the defense as a whole. We mentioned this is almost like a period of review. You get 3 games down, 25% of the season done. Illinois has gone big win against Wyoming, close loss to Indiana, big win against Virginia. In that time, the defense as a whole, only 2 touchdowns allowed. What have you made about what Ryan Walters has been able to continue with that momentum on the defensive side of the ball into 2022?
Yeah, I think, I still hesitate of, if the Virginia Old Dominion score was 16-14, that probably means Virginia doesn't have the greatest offense. They're really struggling on the offensive line. So there's still information coming in telling us, maybe let's tap the brakes a little bit on, holding Virginia without a touchdown, because Old Dominion at Virginia held them to only 1 touchdown, and Virginia needed a field goal with 2 seconds left to win it. Anyway, as this information comes in, there's also other things of Wyoming just beat a very good Air Force team that have been dominating people, and people were saying they should be ranked. So, maybe Wyoming was a little better win. Indiana's 3-0. There's more information coming in. I think overall, from what we've seen in the Big Ten West, what Illinois has put together on defense is up there with, some of the best performances. Obviously, Minnesota is undefeated, but they have played 3 teams that Nebraska would be undefeated if they had played Minnesota's schedule. So, as we begin to learn more, we're gonna get into learning some things about all these teams.
Man, I like that you brought up the Big Ten West. Let's just dive right into that while we're talking about it. It seems like it's wide open this year. I mean, Wisconsin had that game at home against Wazoo that they lost. Northwestern just lost to Southern Illinois at home. You mentioned that Minnesota has that undefeated schedule, but they haven't really been tested yet. It's wide open. It seems like almost there's no game on that side of the conference where you look at it and say Illinois shouldn't have a chance in that one.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing because, excuse me, a lot of the teams that have been really solid, that were expected to be at the top, have really struggled. I mean, Iowa's going to have a great defense, but of all these offensive questions, Northwestern was supposed to bounce back this year, and so far they might be worse. and even Purdue struggling, losing at Syracuse, and they have 2 losses now. And Nebraska looks like, after this Oklahoma game, it looks like they've just kind of checked out for the season. So you look at that game differently. So yeah, it's very, very interesting. Suddenly that Minnesota game on homecoming looks like a really big deal for Illinois if they can do something. Now, every Illinois fan, as they hears me saying this, thinks the same thing of I have looked ahead to those games before, and then a Chattanooga comes in and shocks Illinois. So, no one ever wants to look past the next game because, look, this is a ranked, FCS ranked Chattanooga team, and, they have a good defense, and Illinois has had some offensive struggles so far. So, there's a I think in the building, it doesn't matter what his fans say, but in the building, they have a very one game at a time. We're not looking past anybody.
Sure, but that's why they have us, so that we can look past that.
Right.
But you bring up the offense as well, so let's now go into that. Turnovers have really, I feel like, been the main theme of what you can take away from what the offense has been through 3 games. What do you make of that? Because in moments where they needed the offense, they have made plays. But again, you look at a game like Indiana where you just needed that one, and we can talk about the play calling, the execution, whatever it is in that case, it didn't get it done.
Yeah.
What is your review of the offense through 3 games?
Yeah, I think you're right that finishing drives is the whole thing. Look at the second half of the Indiana game. Throw an interception to the 5-yard line, have 1st and goal from the 6th on a different drive, and you don't punch it in. You get 0 points out of that. The Virginia game, you get to the 1-yard line and Pat Bryant fumbles. The completion of these drives, I'm sure, is what the staff has been on the offense about, during this bye week, because they've left so many points on the table. They've lost a lot of fumbles. Fumble 3 times in this game and lose all 3. They're not falling on fumbles when they happen. There's a lot to clean up there. The good news is those are kind of the fixable things. If they were getting them 82 rushing yards a game and just weren't able to move the ball, that's hard to fix and just say, okay, we're going to rush for 300 this game. So it's a lot easier to fix, hey, we're going to take care of the ball. Hey, we're going to finish the drive. We're going to get points when we get in the red zone. It's a lot easier to fix if you are moving the ball. And if you have a tailback like Chase Brown, you have a wide receiver like Isaiah Williams, you have weapons there to make it work.
All right. Talking about looking ahead now, has your expectation for this season changed at all after what you've seen through 25% of the year?
I would say definitely. I would say I did not expect, I went through it last week on this. I did not expect the defense to lose. Look, Rod Perry is going to start for the Browns this weekend. Yeah. There are NFL players on that defense. So they lost Owen Carney, Rod Perry, Isaiah Gay, Jake Hansen, Kalen Tolson, Tony Adams, and Kirby Joseph. To take all those playmakers out, put them back in, and the defense looks almost a little better, that's crazy impressive. And so because of that, and again, there's, look, is it just Virginia and Wyoming and Indiana's offenses are really bad? We don't know. We'll learn more. But if that's the case, if the defense has gotten better, it's crazy impressive for this staff.
Yeah, and we say all this knowing that, of course, we can't predict precisely the outcome of the season, but we can only go off of what we've seen so far through 3 games for this Illini team. So that's what we'll do. Yep. Speaking of looking ahead, Chase Brown has had such an incredible year. What do you think is still in store for him? Is it Heisman? Now that's really out there. But can he keep this up, do you think, and put together one of the better rushing seasons that an Illinois back has had in recent memory?
I think definitely. I think, every stat around his rushing stats has been impressive, of yards after contact, of breaking tackles, of, it's not just that he's getting all these rushing yards because Illinois is feeding him a lot. It's some of these games where the stats say of how many yards after contact he had. It could be one of those, like another tailback would have had 77 yards. He had 163, It's that type of performance where the other tailbacks are going down, he's spinning out of it and getting more yards. So that's the thing that's sustainable. Again, same thing. If it was Iowa's offense and the tailback is hitting the backfield every play by 3 linebackers descending on him, there's nothing they can do to fix that. But if Chase Brown is able to, turn 7-yard gains into 32-yard gains, and he's able to do that consistently, then yeah, he's going to put up a very, very big year. So you mentioned the Heisman, and yes, we joke about it, and no Illinois tailback's going to win the Heisman. However, we've seen Iowa State tailbacks make it to New York City and be finished 4th or whatever they do. If someone puts up an 1,800-yard season or something like that, the Heisman committee will recognize that, especially if the team has that. Now, again, we're way early. Chase has had some injury issues in the past. We don't want to project anything, and then again, game to game and that type of thing. But what he's been able to do and the way he's putting up these numbers has been crazy impressive.
We'll say, if that happens, start building the statue now.
That's right.
Because that would be an incredible season. All right, quickly now on Chattanooga, before we go, expectations and what do you want Illinois to do to make sure they get it done against an FCS team?
Okay, before I answer that question, I just had this thought pop in my head, Andy. The Illinois-Texas game, basketball, is in New York City on December 6th.
That's right, yeah.
Is the Heisman ceremony that weekend? Because I might need to extend my hotel.
It could be. All right, we'll start making
No, I think it might be the following
No.
weekend. It might be the second. We'll see.
We'll see if we can get him to change.
All right, I'm going to check into my hotel.
That's right.
Because obviously Chase Brown's going to be there, as we just said.
Exactly.
100%. Okay. Chattanooga coming in this weekend. I look at different stats and things like that, and Chattanooga so far has had a very good defense and a really struggling offense. So, you can go back and forth of whether that's a good matchup for Illinois. Do you want to play a team that, Illinois has a really good defense? If they're playing the 100th ranked offense from FCS, they should be able to completely shut them down. But, would you rather play a team that has a better offense and your defense shuts them down, and then you're playing a poor defense and you can get your offense on track? So it's an interesting matchup. Again, anytime FCS and they're only bringing, 50-some players, and you'll notice that on the sideline, Illinois has 100-some dressed over here, and Chattanooga will look like they have, literally half the players over there. So it's something that you should be able to obviously dominate, since they're a lower tier program. But we've seen it before. Illinois trailed Youngstown State in the 4th quarter in 2014 when they should have dominated. SIU came in and came very close to beating, just like they did to Northwestern this weekend. So, can't look past it. I know the team is starting to think, if Wisconsin vulnerable, we could make a huge statement on October 1st, but got to win this one first.
They got to get through this one first. The FCS teams, nothing to just glance over. They definitely need the full attention as well. And soon, Robert, we'll get you back on those Saturdays with Illinois. Should be pretty consistent after this Thursday game against Chattanooga.
That's right.
I know that you'll like that.
Yes, I will.
All right, Robert. He's at IlliniBoard.com. Thanks so much again for joining us on the Sunday No Huddle, and we will see you next weekend.
All right, thanks.